Hi everyone, and welcome to another speed build. Today I'm sharing a Victorian house for Strangerville that at first glance looks like a regular old nice Victorian home, but when you look a little closer you start to see a few peculiar things around it. And this is for the Freelancing Friends household that I uploaded a creation for this past Friday, because that household consisted of 3 friends, Octavia Hart, Sonia Diaz, and Chase Ewing, who are of course all in the freelancing careers that came with the most recent patch. So this house we are building here is of course the one that 3 of them are living in, but it was originally Octavia's aunt's house, because the backstory for this household was that Octavia had an aunt who recently passed away that she was always fairly close to, despite her parents not really seeming to like this aunt very much. Like, they used to take her to visit her aunt here at this house when she was younger, but they stopped taking her here a long time ago. They stopped communicating with her aunt themselves, and they never really gave her a clear answer why. So she just knows that her parents don't really like her aunt much, but she never really knew why. They kept all of that from her, so she just kept talking to her aunt anyway. Like, she talked to her on the phone a lot. They sent each other letters, and since Octavia was really the only member of the family that continued to talk to her aunt and show her any love, when her aunt passed away, she had in her will that Octavia inherited basically everything. Like, she inherited her house, inherited her money. So when she found out that she inherited this house, she jumped at the chance to move here to Strangerville, to get out of her parents' house, because while she loves her parents, they're a bit more traditional, they're a little overbearing, they have this specific idea of what Octavia should do with her life, and they don't really approve of her being a freelancer because she is a freelancing programmer. And they keep telling her that they're worried about her future. They're worried, like, they keep telling her, you need the benefits that come with a regular, stable 9-to-5 job. You need the retirement, you need the health insurance, you need the stable income. What happens if you don't get a freelancing gig for months at a time? What are you going to do about money? They're just very worried. They just kind of feel like it's not really a secure enough thing for her to be doing as a career. But it's what makes her happy, because she does have the non-committal trait, so she just really didn't like the idea of having to show up to an office and work the regular 9-to-5 every week. She really likes having the ability to take the jobs that she chooses and to be able to, just take what works for her, like what works for her life, what deadlines she's able to meet. She just really loves having that freedom, and that freedom also is what made it so she's able to pick up everything and move out here to Strangerville. And since her friends Chase and Sonia were freelancers as well, they were able to do the same thing, because, they didn't have to sit there and worry about giving their 2 weeks notice and then finding another job near Strangerville before moving out here. Like, they could just do their jobs from anywhere. So it just really worked out perfectly. So they're just living here in her aunt's old house. So once we get to the furnishing of it, you will see that the interior overall has a very old and dated feel to it, but there's also some more modern things thrown in here and there that I imagine they brought with them, because, they're fairly young, so they haven't really gotten a chance to accumulate a lot of their own furniture. So it was nice that they came to this house that was already fully furnished, so they didn't have to worry about buying anything. So they just kind of came in here and just replaced a few things with stuff of their own, but for the most part, kept the furnishing in the living area. The living area is the same, just kind of did their own thing with the bedrooms. So I had a lot of fun furnishing in that style, because I always like kind of having that juxtaposition of really old furniture with more modern furniture. So it was just a really neat house to furnish, and I just had a blast furnishing a house that had such an interesting backstory to go with it, because I really enjoy furnishing so much more when I have a specific backstory in mind, because I just feel like it really helps so much with the creativity. Like, I just have all these ideas flowing for how to furnish it, and it kind of gives me the ability to do things that are a little bit more out of the box in terms of the style of the home. But at this point, I've got the basic structure of the house built. I've also got the colors of the siding and the windows and doors picked out, and I really like this color scheme, like just the gray and the white with the blue accents. I just think it looks so beautiful. I was originally going to make this house a little bit more vibrant. So I've done this in other builds where, like other Strangerville builds, where I've taken that roof decoration item, the one that's at the top of the front there, and I just used color swatches from that because it just really gives you good inspiration. So yeah, with a lot of my Strangerville builds, I've just taken that, like looked through the combinations of siding and window colors and used that for the rest of the house. And I just love it because it kind of leads you to different combinations than you would typically do. So my first thought was that I was going to use a combination of that I think was red siding and yellow windows because I thought that looked kind of cool. And I actually tried that on the house and then just scrapped it because it just looked like too much. Like it looked like this was Ronald McDonald's house or something like that. And I just felt like it was too much. So I decided to go something that was a little bit more muted and neutral, especially since the last Victorian house that I built for Strangerville was a bit more vibrant, because on that one I used that bright orange siding and the mint green windows. So I just felt like, seeing as I did that the previous time, it would just be best to go with something that was a little bit less in your face for this house. And I just really like how it looks. I think it works for this house as well because I wanted to have this look that's very unassuming at first. Like you just kind of look at it and you're like, oh, this is this really nice Victorian house. But as I said at the beginning, when you look closer, you start to see some things that are a little weird. So one of those weird things is that I do end up sticking one of those gravestone decorations from vampires on the outside of the house. So it's just something to kind of like, because typically people don't bury people in their yard and stick a gravestone in their yard. Usually you bury people at cemeteries. So, it's just kind of like weird to have a gravestone. So I feel like that's one of those things where these Sims are going to, where the three friends are going to move into this house, are going to be looking around the yard. Because as I said, it's been a long time since Octavia's been here herself. So they're going to be looking around. They notice that gravestone. They're kind of like, that's really weird. Like, I don't know if this is a leftover Halloween decoration that she just kept up for whatever reason, or if there's actually someone buried under here. So I feel like that's something that's definitely going to lead them to have some questions. And I also use the terrain paint to make it look like there's a little bit more dirt right in front of the gravestone. So it's kind of like maybe it's semi-fresh, although I use a swatch of it that's a little bit more worn, so maybe that doesn't work. But I don't know. I thought that the little bit of dirt around it was kind of a nice touch to make it seem like maybe this is like a fairly new grave, and they're just kind of trying to figure out like what's going on under there, but they're not gonna dig up the ground to find if there's a body under there or not. It's kind of like Schrodinger's gravestone, where like there could be a body in there, but there might not be a body in there, and they don't want to know which it is, so they're just gonna kind of be ignorant and just pretend that it's a leftover Halloween decoration. And then in addition to that, there are a few urns throughout the house, which isn't as odd because it's a lot more common for people to keep the ashes of loved ones in their house. But just that with the combination of the gravestone is just a little strange. So that's mainly the like that's the main weird things about this house. And I stuck some other creepy decorations like that weird vulture thing from vampires. So for the most part it looks fairly normal, but then there's just those few strange things that kind of jump out at you. But I am on the landscaping now, and I just want to quickly say that I am so happy that they finally added in those, or that they unlocked those plants from Strangerville with the most recent patch. Because when I saw that, like, I was not expecting that at all. Like, we knew from the Maxis Monthly that we were going to be getting the freelancing careers, so I was just completely surprised by the fact that they added these plants in, and it just worked so perfectly for this house. Like, it just made it so much easier to make it really fit into Strangerville. And this was a household I had the idea for. Like, I was planning to make this household shortly after the release of Strangerville, but it got put off for a bit. And I'm glad it did, because the freelancing careers went in perfectly with the story. And then I'm just glad that we had these new Strangerville plants before I went in to build another house in Strangerville. So yeah, like, this patch was just absolutely perfect for this household and house that I had in mind. And then on top of that, they also added in some there was like a few different trailer home objects, and then there were some like rusted out antique cars, so they added some of those other world decorations into it. So that just made me really happy, and it's nice to know that they're paying attention to what people want, because I know like a bunch of people were saying how they are really disappointed by those plants not being in the buy catalog, and I know I expressed that myself in my overview of Strangerville, so it's just nice to see that they're actually listening and they added this in for those who really wanted them. And I didn't end up using the trailer objects in this build, but I'm probably going to use them in my next build, because I have an idea for what I'm going to do for my next build, and that's going to fit in perfectly with that. So I'm excited to use that in that build. As far as what's in the backyard here, as far as activities go, I did add in that fire pit, as you can see, because I thought that, that might be something they decided to put in, because they wanted this really nice area in the backyard to hang out in. And then there is also a garden off to the side, and that was something I was imagining was Octavia's aunt. Like, she just had a garden that she had going on before she passed away. So I think I gave one of the Sims the gardening, like I gave her like a level 4 gardening skill or something. So I was imagining that maybe she would kind of like see this garden out there, would want to carry it on. And next to that tree there is where, like, that tree at the back of the lot is where I did stick in the gravestone. But I decided to go in and do a little bit of terrain manipulation because I just wanted to add a slight slope to make the lot not feel so flat. Because sometimes, like, I do forget to use the terrain tools sometimes, but it is nice to just use them, even if it's just to slightly slope the lot, just to kind of make it look a little bit more realistic, because most lots, like, even if they're relatively flat, aren't perfectly flat, and it just kind of makes things look a bit better, I feel. But as far as what's on this back deck here, we just got the grill. I also added this bar to it. I was imagining the bar and the cooler was something they added in themselves, and then that grill was already there. And then in that gravel area behind it, there is also a table with an umbrella on it. So that was something I was thinking was more so already there from her aunt, rather than that being something that they bought. And I do like how this blue on the umbrella really goes with the blue on the fences. Like, I just like that. I thought that was really, really nice. And probably my favorite plants that came with the patch are those, I think they're Joshua trees. I believe that's what those are. Those look so cool, and I just really like the detail of them. So I'm looking forward to using them more in future builds, because they would definitely work really well for builds that you're making in Oasis Springs and Del Sol Valley. So I'm really happy that we have more desert appropriate plants, because that is something we have really been missing. Because whenever I do builds in Oasis Springs or Del Sol Valley, I've always struggled a little bit to kind of figure out what kinds of plants to place around, and having these as an option just really makes it so much easier. And I wanted to go back and elaborate on the backstory a little bit. So if you're getting some Spectre family vibes from The Sims 2, then you aren't wrong, because I talked about this in the Creation video, but this household's backstory was a bit inspired by the Spectre family from The Sims 2, because like Octavia's aunt, all the Spectre from that household had a lot of gravestones around her yard. There are some questions as to whether there was foul play involved, and I just really like that mystery from that game. And I felt like that was the kind of vibe that really fit into Strangerville so well. So rather than it being like the Spectre family in Sims 2, where, because that consisted of all of Spectre and her niece Ophelia Ningmos, who lived with her after the passing of her parents. So rather than it being where her niece is living with her aunt, you know, like her niece was living with her because her parents passed away, the deal is that Octavia is living in her aunt's house because her aunt passed away and she wanted to get away from her parents. So it's a little different, but I just really love that idea of there being a question of whether or not all these gravestones and urns are around because of potential foul play. Like, I feel like that's kind of like what her family was thinking may have been going on, because she, you know, her aunt may have had like spouses who died under mysterious circumstances. And after the first one, they might have been like, okay, you know, that happens. People randomly pass away. You know, it's not too out of the ordinary, but maybe the second or third time it happened, they're kind of like, okay, something fishy is going on here. I don't feel very safe around this person, so I'm just going to distance myself from them. But their daughter Octavia was fairly young, so they didn't really want to explain that to her. Like, they didn't really want to expose her to something so dark, so they just kind of like skirted around the issue and tried their best to persuade her to not talk to her aunt without explicitly stating what was going on. So since she never knew exactly what was going on, she just continued to talk to her aunt. And then now that she's living in her house and is seeing that gravestone and those urns, she's maybe kind of like, okay, maybe there was a reason why my parents kind of avoided this woman, because this is a little creepy. You know, so she might end up finding out why her parents have such a distaste for her aunt. And I know this backstory is a little bit morbid, but as I said, I feel like it goes well with the vibe of Strangerville and there being kind of like weird things going on. And I feel like a lot of the backstories that came with The Sims 2 were very dark once you started to look into them a bit more. Like, I said this in the Creation video, but I always loved the storytelling and the drama that was there right off the bat in The Sims 2, and how at surface level things don't really look too bad. I think they did that on purpose because the game was rated teen, so I feel like they couldn't explicitly state all of these dark things. Like, they probably couldn't explicitly say that, oh, this sim is a serial killer or murdered a bunch of people, you know? But they just kind of left it more implied. So it's like, you know, like I said, at first glance, like, things don't look too bad, but then when you start to dig a lot closer, there's a lot of fairly dark things with the stories of The Sims that came with that game, and that's just something I always really, really loved about that game. It's been so long since I played The Sims 2, but I just loved it so much in the past, and I don't know if like I could get it working on my computer currently, because I did get that like back when they were giving out the Ultimate Collection. It was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think. Like basically you could very easily get the Ultimate Collection. Like I think all I did was I just messaged EA support and said something like, oh, my disc for The Sims 2 isn't working. And then they're just like, here's a code for the Ultimate Collection, winky face. Like, I think they might have literally, like, typed a winky face into the chat. Like, I think they knew, like, what I was trying to do. But, yeah, they were giving out Sims 2 Ultimate Collections, like, hotcakes a few years ago. And I think now it's a lot harder to get it. So I have that on another Orange account somewhere else. It's not the one that I use for The Sims 4. So if I can figure out how to get into that account, I might be able to install The Sims 2, but I'm not sure if I can really get it to work on Windows 10. Like, I know some people have been able to, but it's a little bit tricky, but I don't know, that's something I would like to do someday, but the problem is, like, I don't have a ton of time to just play The Sims 2, but yeah, hopefully someday I can play it again, because I did play it a bit when I got the Ultimate Collection a few years ago. Like, I think I spent like a month playing it a whole lot, and then I just stopped. But I would definitely love to just try to play it again and just experience all that nostalgia someday soon. But now we're on furnishing the parlor area of this house. And I did want to mention that so for the floor plan of this house, I did use a floor plan that I saw online as inspiration, because I was trying to search for pictures of Carpenter Gothic houses, and I found this one picture that had a floor plan with it. So I used that as a baseline. I didn't follow it exactly. I just kind of used that as a base and did my own thing with it. So, yeah, the lower level floor plan is pretty similar to that one, but then with the upstairs, I ended up kind of doing my own thing. And I just liked how it had this separate parlor area, and then behind that, you have the actual living room with the TV. So I cluttered this room up a whole lot because I really wanted to have this vibe that this woman collected a lot of things over the years. She had a lot of like random little artifacts and such. And on this coffee table here, I did stick that book stack, but I went in later and changed it out for that decoration that came with the most recent patch. That was just a book that was open. Because, yeah, I forgot about that. And then I remembered later on that we got that, so I thought that would look a lot better on that coffee table than that one. And then here I'm just going in, and I'm changing the wallpaper because I was using that Vampires one originally, but it looked a little off. And then I remembered we had these base game ones, so I decided to try them out, and they looked so much better. And plus, I've used that vampire wallpaper a lot, like when I've done older homes. So I thought it'd be good to use this one since I rarely ever use this wallpaper, and it just looked really good. And this house did take me a bit longer than usual to furnish for a house of this size because I did go a bit more detailed with clutter than I typically do, because I usually like to add a good bit of clutter, but with this house I definitely went a bit more overboard with it than usual. So it might be a bit much for some people, but I feel like that really just fit in with a story I was going for with this, because like I said, I just kind of imagined that she was someone who had collected a lot of things over the years and was kind of reluctant to give a lot of it up. So she just has a lot of different things around the house that don't perfectly go together. So this house does have a fairly mismatched, like a kind of mismatched feel to it in some places, but I just really like how it came out, and I had so much fun furnishing it. Like, this is probably like one of the most fun houses I've furnished. And I did stick an urn over there on that table. You might have noticed me doing that. So there was an urn that I stuck over on the fireplace. That was just a decorative one though, but I did stick an actual one from the Buy Debug menu in this room. And then over in the dining room, I ended up sticking yet another one. So it's just kind of like it's not like there's a collection of urns in one spot. They're just kind of here and there throughout the main level of the house. And I also used that duck decoration, which I keep forgetting about, but it is so cute. And then next to it is that creepy vulture skull decoration that I was talking about, which is like, I don't know, it's just something that to me would feel kind of creepy in a house. So it definitely goes with the vibe I was going for. And I was trying to not layer on the creepy too much. Like I said before, I wanted it to be more of a subtle thing where overall you're like, okay, this is just a really nice house that belonged to an older woman. But then you're just kind of like, why are there 3 different urns in here? But that is it for the living room. So now we're on to the dining room, which I really like. Like it just once again has this kind of dated look to it. Of course, I used a lot of older furniture. I ended up using these chairs from the base game. I thought about using the cats and dogs ones, like the ones that have the cushion that comes in a bunch of different color swatches. But I decided not to use those because I realized I've been using those a lot recently, so I just thought it'd be good to go back to these base game ones, and they did fit into this house fairly well anyway. And then over here, we've just got a chair and then, or just a couple chairs and then a table next to it, just kind of like what I did in the living room basically. And another fun thing about this build was that I did use a lot of items that I rarely use, if ever, because I feel like I have a tendency to just kind of get in the habit of using the same items over and over again. You know, like I have my go-to things, you know, like if I'm decorating a dining room, like I stick these things on the table here. If I'm decorating a foyer, I stick these things on the foyer table. Or I just stick plants in the corner and don't use the statues much. So I was trying to break myself out of some of those habits with this build, and I was trying to search through the catalog to find different things that I typically overlook, like that sculpture I stuck in the corner of the bus with the hat on it. Like, I don't believe I've ever used that before. So that was another thing that was just really fun about this build. I think that's something I definitely need to work on doing more in the future, because, you know, like, when I build, I try not to spend a crazy amount of time on the builds, but it definitely takes a lot more time to just kind of go through and find those new items that you typically don't use and try to figure out how to use them in different ways. But I think it is worth it, you know, because it kind of adds to that database of different items you can use at different places, if that makes any sense, you know, because if you know, like, I feel like when you furnish the same room, like, usually you kind of have the same items you pull from, but then when you discover new items and find that they can potentially work in different areas, then it kind of gives you, like, more things that you know you can use in rooms. I don't know if any of this is making sense. Hopefully it is, but you know, basically the more items you memorize, the more you know, like, oh, I remember this item that I used this one time, so I can go pull that. That'd be perfect for this spot. Because it does get kind of hard to memorize everything. I'm sorry if none of that rambling just there made any sense, but we're on to the laundry room now, which, you know, actually we're done with that. Yeah, that was a really quick room to furnish. I just wanted to have a little laundry room off of there, and now we're on to the kitchen, which feels not quite as nice as the rest of the house. And I was kind of imagining that maybe this was a kitchen that was added on to the house later, because this is a house I figure would probably have been built in the 1800s at some point. And I was trying to research a little bit because I was wondering, like, when exactly having a kitchen in your house became a common thing. And it seemed like it was in the 1800s that it became a common thing. So I'm not sure, like, how realistic it is to say that this is a house that maybe wouldn't have had a kitchen originally, and then they added one later on, and then when they added the kitchen on, they also built a master bathroom on top of it, because, like, a master bathroom is also something that wouldn't have been common for a house built in the 1800s. So that kind of made sense to me that they added the kitchen on, and then when they added the kitchen on, they were like, hey, let's go stick another bathroom up above this so we have an actual master suite. But I don't know how realistic that exactly is, because I think houses in the 1800s did commonly have kitchens in them, but I was reading that they tended to put the kitchens in the very back of the house a lot of the time because they wanted, like, there's this whole thing about not wanting people, like, not wanting guests to be able to smell the food, so they tried to distance the kitchen as far as possible from the dining room so that you wouldn't be able to smell the smells of the food. So in that way, I think it makes a lot of sense that the kitchen is here in the back of the house. I found that very interesting. Like, it's always really interesting to learn about how trends in homes have changed over the time, because now the kitchen is often, like, one of, like, the first things you see into when you come to a home. Like, a lot of the times you'll see the living room, then you can kind of see the kitchen from there. And of course, open concept is a huge thing nowadays, where you just see everything as soon as you come in. So nowadays the kitchen is just such a huge focal place of homes. It's a place where people tend to gather. But back in the days, that was not the case. There were typically small areas, like, just kind of, like, shoved in the back, far away from things, where you didn't really want to spend a lot of time. So I just found that kind of fascinating when I was doing that bit of research. And I also saw that a lot of times, especially in hotter climates, like in the southern part of the United States, kitchens would often be a separate, like, a completely separate building from the rest of the house. So, I mean, if we're getting a little too, like, you know, we're overthinking things here a little too much, you know, like, since this is a house that would have been in a hotter climate, maybe it had a completely separate kitchen building at one point, and then they demolished that and then adding a kitchen onto the regular house. I don't know. This is definitely way overthinking things a bit, but that's just kind of what I was thinking as I was building this house. But currently I am working on the landing area upstairs, so we just have a couch and a chair. We've got a bookshelf. We've got this mirror here. which is just something I thought would be nice to fill in the space. And I added a lot of bookshelves throughout this house because I was imagining Octavia's aunt as being someone who was really into reading, like she just collected a lot of books over the years. And I just want to mention, in case anyone is wondering, I'm not planning on actually playing in this household. Like, I'm not going to be starting a Let's Play, because I saw a few people mention something about that in the comments of the Create Some video. But yeah, this is just a household and house I wanted to create just for fun because I like doing this on occasion. But they will be put in my reserve of households I could potentially use in a Let's Play someday, because that is a nice thing about doing more of these creative sims and townie makeovers, is that I just kind of have this reserve where if I have the desire to start a Let's Play, then I can just pull from those sims and I don't really have to make fresh sims right before the Let's Play. So I don't know if I'll ever do a series on these sims. I mean, it's a possibility. It probably won't happen, but I'll definitely keep them in mind, because that is what happened with my Seasons Let's Play, where the household I used in that series was a household I had made in a Create Some video like a month beforehand, and then when Seasons was announced, I was like, oh, this household is perfect for that, so I'm just going to go ahead and use them. So who knows? We'll see, because I would like to do more 10 to 15 part Let's Plays in the future, because those are just nice, because it's just kind of a huge commitment to always do 40 part series, so it's just nice to throw in these shorter series here and there. And for those of you who have been wondering about it, I am planning to bring back my Sims 4 Seasons Let's Play, or not Sims 4 Seasons, my like base game Let's Play this summer. It's not a certain thing, but it is something I'm really hoping to be able to do, because my Seasons Let's Play and my Caliente Family Let's Play will be finishing up fairly soon, and then my Get Famous Let's Play probably will be finishing up not too long after that. So I should have an opening this summer to finally bring that back. So I am looking forward to that. But I have a video I'm planning to make probably in a month or so where I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. But right now I'm working on Sonia's room, and her room is very cramped. It's kind of an awkward space to furnish, and I'm not certain if she's going to be able to use that bed or not. I actually have to test that. Like, there should be enough space for Sims to be able to get back into here and use the bed, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I really wanted to have a double bed in here, and that was kind of the only way to fit it in. And since her bedroom was so small, I furnished this other bedroom here as like her painting studio, because I was kind of imagining that she took the smallest bedroom so that she could have the other room as a separate art studio. So she's kind of paying a little bit more rent since she has two of the rooms for herself, because the other two are a good bit bigger, so I didn't have as much of a problem finishing or fitting things in them. So yeah, this is just a really cute little art studio, because while the freelancing art career is more focused around digital art, I imagine that she still liked making physical art. So I did stick the digital sketchpad. You can see it here on this end table. I didn't give her a desk because I didn't think she really needed that. And then if she does need to use a computer or something, her other two roommates have computers, so you could just, like, if you play as this household, you could just go in and use one of those other ones. Like, the sketchpad is definitely the most important thing for her. And I also really like that decoration there that's just two posters kind of overlapped a little bit that's stuck on the floor. I just think that's so cool, and I do wish, though, that we had some separate wall decoration paintings that had those patterns on them. That'd been kind of cool, because like that's definitely really cool artwork, and I would love to be able to just hang it on the walls around the Sims house. But I don't know, it's not that big of a deal. That's just kind of like a thing I wish we had got when I saw that. But now I'm on furnishing Chase and Sonia's bathroom. Nothing too exciting about this. I was just once again trying to give it a little bit of an older vibe, and then I've got that older, more dated 90s-esque shower tub combo in here. I mean, it's still turned out pretty nice. Like, I have fun furnishing this. And another thing is that after I finished furnishing the whole second level, I did go back and change the wallpapers to the version of them that had the paneling below it, because I didn't do that initially because I thought, they're bedrooms, they're more casual space, so maybe they wouldn't have the nice fancy paneling in them. But then I just realized that the paneling makes it look so much better. So when I went back in and made that change, it just made the furnishing look a lot better, because I wasn't, like, after I did the first two bedrooms here, I wasn't really too sure about how I felt about them. I definitely like the other two bedrooms more, but making that wallpaper swap definitely helped a lot. And I don't know, I was kind of feeling like Sonia's bedroom felt a little incomplete, but I think that works in a way. Like, it kind of has that incomplete young adult who hasn't quite, like, gotten a full set of furniture vibe to it in a way. Like, they don't have a complete set. So I feel like that kind of works for what I was going here anyway. But now I'm on furnishing the master bathroom because I finished the other one, and then I figured, no, we're on a roll. Might as well go and furnish this one. And I actually did different things in terms of the wallpaper and flooring for these bathrooms, which is something I've been meaning to do. Because usually I just do the same wallpaper and flooring in all the bathrooms in a house, but for this one I decided that, you know, it worked pretty well to do it a little bit differently between the two bedrooms, especially since, as I was saying, I imagine that this was one that was maybe added on at a later date. So when they did it, they of course used different flooring than what they used in the rest of the other bathroom. But we're furnishing Octavia's bedroom now, and since it was her aunt who's, you know, since this house was her aunt's, she is of course the one who gets the master bedroom. So with this, as I said before, I did a mix of more modern furniture that I was imagining was furniture that they brought with them, and then older furniture that I was imagining was here. So my thought with this was that she got rid of her aunt's old bed and then brought her own bed, and then just used her aunt's nightstands, because, you know, I was kind of thinking, like, I thought about just putting an older bed in here and making it like she's using her aunt's old bed, but then I feel like if I was in the situation, I would probably just get rid of the old bed and bring my own, because I feel like a bed's not something you typically like want to get used. You know, like you kind of want to have your own. I mean, I bought a used bed in the past, but it was from someone I knew. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I feel like people tend to want to bring their own beds with them rather than using a bed that was already there. So I do like that mix of that mid-century modern bed with the more traditional furniture. Like, we have that traditional dresser there, and then the more traditional standing mirror, but then we got this modern desk that is Octavia's that she brought with her. And since she is a programmer, I thought it'd be very fitting that she would have multiple monitors. So I was trying to do that thing I've seen other people do, where they add the TVs to the desk like second and third monitors, because like from working like where I work, I'm not a programmer myself, but I do work with people who are programmers. My fiance is also a programmer, so I know for them, it's really important to have a bunch of monitors open, because I think you want to display like different code on different monitors. Like, it kind of makes your workflow a little bit easier. So that was a thing that I felt just really suited her and her, like, what she does with her life very well. And then as far as the decoration around the room, we just have this mix of more traditional wall decorations that were her aunt's, and then more like just more posters that she brought with her. And I was kind of worried about how this style was going to, like, these different styles were going to work together, but I think in the end I got it to work out pretty well. So we're on to Chase's room right now, which is of course the last room. So it is in his room. I did end up using that desk and new chair that came with the patch. I also used that new laptop, the new walls, the new wall bookshelf, because I didn't get a chance to use those in the other rooms, but it definitely worked really well for his. And I'm also glad that they added in another laptop with a patch, because I know some people were kind of bummed out that, like, because a lot of people had been wanting laptops. So I know some people were kind of bummed out that they had to buy this pack just to be able to have laptops. So I am glad they added them in for everyone else, although I did see that some people were kind of bummed out because they bought Strangerville just for the laptop. So they felt like they felt kind of frustrated that they didn't really need to do that in order to get a laptop. But still, I'm glad they added this one in. I do like this one a lot more because it's kind of more of a sleek and modern laptop, and this bookshelf is also really cool. I also just really like the desk. I'm also glad that we got that new pencil holder, because I have been using that one that came with base game so much, and I have been really wanting a new one. So I'm just glad that we finally have a little bit more variety for that kind of item. And I also want to mention that I am really excited that in the Maxis Monthly, they stated that we're going to be getting a new expansion pack, a new game pack, and a new stuff pack all in the next 6 months. And I don't have much time left in this video here, but I have a feeling the expansion pack is probably gonna be the next one, because I know a bunch of people got invited to EA Play. So I have a feeling that means we're gonna be getting another expansion pack in June, and that they're going there to get footage from that expansion pack, because that's what happened with Seasons. So yeah, I have a hunch that's what's going on. And then as far as like when we're gonna get the stuff pack and game pack, I have absolutely no clue. Like, probably sometime over the summer, obviously. But either way, I'm really excited to see what all those upcoming packs are gonna be. But that is about it for the building part of the video. So as usual, there will be a link to downloads in the description. There'll be other stuff in there, how to find in-game, and that's gonna be all from me. So hope you enjoy the rest of the video.